we can use the next 30 minutes for maybe question and answers. So we should be over by 8:30. I'm pretty sure your time is quite advanced than our hours. So yeah, I don't want to keep you up for too long, and quite a number of us are in different time zones too. So we don't want to take people's Friday away from them. Okay, I think that we can start now whilst we sort out the back end stuff. So good evening, everyone. My name is Reynolds. I'll be your moderator for tonight. It's been a wonderful time, a wonderful session. This last 3 trainings that we've had. If you missed it, don't worry. We have all that resource on our Telegram channel and our YouTube channels and all that. So you are sorted, but only that you just missed the live action and the interaction between ourselves, which happened on the last 3 or the last 2 sessions that we had. So for tonight, we are continuing our training on understanding and screening persons with learning disability. And we have the amazing Lola. Correct me if I get it wrong. Aneke.
Aneke. You're very close.
Aneke. Oh, I should probably move to Nigeria for some time.
You should.
Yeah. So we have the most amazing Lola Aneke with us. She is an author, an award-winning educator with a K-12 practicing license from North Carolina in the United States. She holds a Master's of Arts in Teaching, Special and Inclusive Education from the Meredith College, North Carolina, and a bachelor degree in Sociology from the University of Lagos. Lola is an IBCCES board certified telepractice specialist, as well as a board certified cognitive specialist. She's the founder and CEO of the Comprehensive Autism and Related Disabilities Education and Training Academy, known as Cadet Academy. That's quite creative. And also a non-profit, non-governmental organization, an NGO, Dewdrops Community Center for Special Needs, both located in Abuja. Lola hosted the only weekly special needs radio show in Nigeria from 2015 to 2019. She also hosts a weekly online TV program titled Finding Help with Special Needs on YouTube. I think that before we finish, you probably should share your YouTube channel with us so others can also benefit. And she has a 24/7 support group for families and educators with over 700 parents and educators on Telegram. She is a TEDx speaker and an inclusive education consultant for UNICEF and Mott McDonald since 2020. Lola has featured on numerous television and print media and has been interviewed on BBC, Focus in Africa, and has also been on Al Jazeera. She received her Network Woman of the Year in Education Award for 2019. And in 2020, she was recognized by Leading Ladies Africa as one of the 100 most inspiring women in Nigeria. She has trained and empowered numerous parents, teachers, and caregivers locally and internationally, and has published 3 crucial books, namely Special Needs Made Easy, Mastering Autism, Volume 1, Special Needs Made Easy, Volume 1, Mastering Autism, and the Dyslexia Bible. People, in my tradition, would say, Nana, Unkofuni, that is in Twi. But people, we have here the amazing Lola for tonight. Lola, the people are yours to give us all the education and all the information that you've gathered over the years. I look forward to a wonderful time. So the platform is all yours now.
Thank you so very much. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I need you to please unmute yourself and respond. I want this session to really be interactive. I feel all alone. And if you know me, I am that energy woman. So please say something to me in the chat comment section. Say something, unmute yourself if you can, because I'll be asking and I'll be acting as a teacher today. Luckily for me, my topic really is about how teachers should assess and empower parents to be able to test their children or any individual really living with learning disability, particularly dyslexia. I was about to say autism, dyslexia. So please say hello to me. Hello, everybody. Unmute, please, if you can. Hi, I'm asking a lot of questions because we're all going to learn together.
Good evening.
Hi, no one has a monopoly of knowledge, so I'm going to learn from you too. So nice to meet you all. Good evening. I'm Lola. Lola Aneke is my name, and I'm glad to be here today. I was saying to Rosen earlier that I know our plan. Our plan is to make sure you all get everything you need within this couple of weeks. And I'm wondering how we're going to do that, but we'll do it. The good thing is what I plan to do today is, even if you don't get everything, I'm going to get your mind thinking such that when you leave, you can actually create something from what I'll be sharing with you. That's everything I'm going to do with you today. So without much ado, I'd like to share my screen real quick because we have quite a lot to learn. And please, I speak quite fast. If for any reason I'm speaking too fast for you, please feel free to let me know. I do not take offense with that because I know I speak really fast. And as a teacher, you have to carry every of your students along. So please call me back and I'll explain or retake the sentence or the statement again. So thank you, everyone. Can I share? Oh, great, 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 great. Thank you. Can we all see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Amazing. Thank you so much for the feedback. Okay, so I've been asked or I've been instructed, for now, Rosie is my boss. She had instructed me to speak on the topic, understanding and screening persons with learning disability. That's a general topic, but my scope would now be, so I have a little problem with this. Let me hide this. Great. Sorry, I speak to myself a lot. I'm sorry. So, can you see my screen again?
Yes, we can.
Change? Amazing. That's always an issue. That's what I'm asking. Sometimes it doesn't change. So great. You've heard all about me. So I'm also going to gloss over this. Simply put, I am a certified special needs educator. Okay. My scope will be, there'll be an introduction, and I'll be looking at techniques for screening, and the various techniques will be observation, interviews, case studies, sociometry, and error analysis. I'll also be looking at uses of checklists, rating scales, observation schedules, anecdotal records. Then I'll be walking you through teacher-made tests based on the curriculum area, which is reading, spelling, and writing. So reading, spelling, writing, and math. And then, of course, I'll do a little practical usage of a sample of an informal tool. Like I said, please pay close attention. What I'll be doing today is mostly letting you see the reasons why we should assess. So beyond the assessment, beyond the screening, I want you to see what you can do such that if you do not take anything away from here today, all that you're taking away will help you to be able to create that teacher-made assessment or screening so you can help that child or that individual with learning disability. So my first slide says Introduction to Educational Assessment. What is screening? Screening is a systematic assessment of all students within a classroom, grade, school, or school district. It's also often done in academic or behavioral or social emotional domain. It is an assessment process that helps teachers identify students who are at risk for not meeting grade level learning goals. So if your learning goal is that a child should be able to read 2-letter words, and that child is not able to, even prior to when you discover, you should be able to have a screening done to know what is going on with that child. You hear me say child a lot because I believe in early intervention, but it's okay. Any individual, I'll try to use the word individual so the adult don't feel, oh, because I wasn't screened at a child, there's no hope for me. So I will interchangeably use the word adult and child. And also, if all the students within the targeted population are evaluated, then screening is universal. So that's what screening is all about. Now, why do we screen? The point that is a big deal for me here is informed teaching, but let me run through it quickly. We screen so that we can specify and verify what the issue is, what the challenge is. We also screen so that we can be informed as educators, as teachers, as that person who is going to teach our child. It's not that the child, yes, the child might have a challenge, but what role do I play to ensure that the result of my training is screening is worked upon for the benefit of the child. And of course, it's also for making decisions about the student's eligibility status, current level of performance, and also to guide our individualized education plan. Now, what are the educational, all of this, I have a little bit of challenge with some of this, what you might call it, just keep talking, I need to read. So what to assess in an educational evaluation of dyslexia. So I needed to put this because dyslexia is very wide. I was going to put all the pillars of language and all that, but I felt let me break it down into the various parts that each student might have challenges in. We have phonological awareness. We have language-based, phonological or language-based memory. Listen, I'm going to share this slide with us, so feel free and just listen. Please listen so that you can get a lot of things away. I'll share this slide so that when you go back to read, you would understand. I want you to just please listen. Also, rapid automation naming. You also want to assess or screen receptive vocabulary, phonics skills, decoding skills, oral reading fluency, spelling, writing, which includes sentence level and paragraph. And I'm going to cover most of this today. At least some of it, if not all, anyway. So real quick, techniques for dyslexia screen, that's the first observation. Now, what is observation? Observation can be provided, simply put, really, it just means in layman's language to watch closely at a person's behavior. So for example, I could be looking at you without saying any words. I'm looking at where you're sitting right now. Some of you are in your bedroom, in your living room, on the bed, on the chair. I'm wondering, why is she sitting that way? Why are you looking that way? Why does she have a pencil in her mouth? Why does she have a paper? That is observation. You know, looking at the person, the individual, looking at the surrounding environment, looking at the different factors that is happening within that individual. And it could either be systematic or non-systematic. So the non-systematic one is called the informal observation, while the systematic observation is the formal observation. Now, there are different reasons why we observe and what observation is. It's a direct means for learning about students, including what they do or do not know, or can do or cannot do. Of course, from my explanation of observation, why would you be looking at that child? Why would you be wondering why he's holding a pencil or paper? Because you want to know what a child can do or not do. It's also a natural process of getting to know the student by listening to them and observing their behavior. I think I've explained all of those, so I'll run real quick because there's so much to cover, but that's just a general definition for observation. Now, the advantage of observation, it allows the teacher to assess the student as the teachers teach. So I always like when I'm teaching, and some of my colleagues will bear me witness, when I'm teaching, I like to go around. Luckily for me, I'm a kinesthetic person, and I move around a lot. And I'm looking, oh, how did he form his letter A? How is his pencil grip? You know, you're checking, and that's a very good way as an educator to assess children. You don't wait till the damage is done. The moment you're able to have what we call formative assessment, you're able to change whatever it is and correct whatever it is. So that's one of the reasons why we observe. And then also helps us to monitor the progress of the child and the behavior skill as part of the normal teaching process. So if a child, for example, is not holding that pencil very well, you help the child, you correct the child, and you also monitor. So if today I saw the child not holding the pencil, using the typical pencil grip, I'm going to have to correct that child. After a day or two, I'm checking, is she holding that pencil very well? So observation of skills and knowledge can take place in a natural teaching and learning setting of the classroom without the need of a specific test or assignment. So like I said, I didn't have to look at whether it's, we are having a test, or I've asked the child to probably write 3-syllable words. I'm just observing how everything is going on with the child when learning is taking place. Now, this is a very good example of a systematic observation. This is what we call the formal observation. It's a template, you know. You have the observer, you have the date of the observation. You also have the time of the observation, the interval which you're observing. You have the student that's been observed. In this case, the student name is Tahila. And what are you observing? You're observing deletion of initial sound. That's under the code. You're observing deletion of final, sorry. You're observing deletion of initial sound. You're also observing deletion of final sound. That's the second code. You're observing substitution of middle sound. That's the middle sound. And then sometimes you may not have an opportunity to observe because sometimes you're busy. So that's how you have to have this ready. And then, for example, if you decide that during oral reading, you want to observe how this child is calling out some words. If the child has issue with, for example, if the child was supposed to say fat and the child said art, that means that child had deleted the initial word. And then you record how many times he did that, you know, and then you just keep recording where you have. Let me put my, so for example, the observer's date, the date, time of the observation, the interval, instructional activity, which is oral reading. Student is Tahila. You may have as much as 1 or 2 students, but I just chose to have 1 student right now. And then these are my code, as I was explaining earlier on. And then this is where I record. You use like a tally to put, you record if the child has, deleted, or if it's deletion, you put 1. Yeah, that's if it's deletion, you put 1. If it's a deletion of initial sound, you put 1. If it's deletion of final sound, you put 2. If it's deletion of, if it's substitution of middle sound, you put 3. And if you had no opportunity to observe, you put 4. And then that's so, because it's 10 minutes interval, this will be your first scoring, the second scoring will be here, your third scoring will be here, your fourth scoring will be here, and so on. And then sometimes you might have to repeat this scoring for a number of days to be able to get enough data for you to be able to identify where exactly the child is struggling. And so that's how to use a systematic observation. That's a formal observation tool for screening a child who is struggling. Now, another one is the non-systematic, which is informal one. And today we talk a lot about informal. So for example, when I'm going to observe a child in the classroom, this is a good example of your report from an informal observation. I wrote, Kwame was observed on the 20th of May, 2022 in his literacy, and on the 23rd of May, 2022 in his resource class during a quiz. In both observation, during oral reading exercise, Kwame struggled to pronounce 4-syllable words such as pepperoni and alligator. When asked to write the word, when asked to write words with 5 syllables such as photosynthesis, sorry, I need to go back. When asked to write words with 5 syllables such as photosynthesis and experimental during the quiz, for each he asked his teacher to repeat the word again and would erase each time he made an attempt to write the words. Kwame responded to some tasks involving 2- and 3-syllable words during both observation. However, he spoke very quietly and the teacher had to ask him to speak up and repeat himself 3 times. I don't know if anybody was following, and I would like my moderator to please call on someone to please, because like I said today, one of the things I want you to take away with, even if I don't finish this presentation, is how do I use what I've learned? So if you were supposed to observe a child, you suspected something, and then your report says this, what do you think is a child's challenge, and how do you think you could provide support? So let's start with somebody. I think I saw a familiar face that I know. Blessing, please. Well, after reading this observation report based on the screening that you want to do for a child, what are the challenges you're seeing based on this observation report? Can you please unmute yourself? Blessing.
Okay, yeah, thank you. I was waiting for the host to unmute me.
Okay.
Okay, so one, I can see that the child is struggling to pronounce 4-syllable words. So this is very important because it says 4-syllable words. So not just any kind of word, and words such as pepperoni and alligators. And then also when the child is asked to write words with 5 syllables, such as photosynthesis and experimental, they erase each time they make an attempt to write. So it means for words that are longer like that, the child struggles with it. And also when Kwame responds to tasks involving 2 and 3 syllable words, okay, so but generally, Kwame is struggling, can write words that have 5 syllables, and then also struggles with some words that have 2 syllables. So it's very specific on the kind of words that Kwame is struggling with.
Absolutely. And then as a teacher, as that parent, as that service provider, we don't want to generalize. We call it individualized intervention, and it's targeted at the child's need. And that's the reason for all that we'll be speaking today. At some point, I'm going to talk about what you should do, because beyond that assessment, beyond that screening, if I were to provide intervention, reading intervention to Kwame, I'm going to focus on his, word pronunciation. I have to give him strategy to be able to pronounce words. So for example, if you can all see my fingers, I'm not sure you can see it, but I place my 4 fingers and I'm saying, if I want to teach you, possibly, I want to make you know that you can break those words into 4 sounds. Pepperoni. So you know that you have to call sound you have to call the syllable 4 times. If you have not said it 4 times, then you'll not be able to pronounce that word. And then for the 5 syllable words that you're going to write, you have to break it into 5 for sentences. So when I'm writing, I need to see like 5 different syllables in my writing. And that's a bit targeted intervention for the child. So again, I'm saying to us that it's not all about the screening, it's about what you would do after you've screened the child. Now to my next slide. Interviews. We all know in layman's language. Like I said, I'm going to share the slide, so I'll gloss over this. Interviews, what does it mean? You're having an interview. Most times the common interview we know as general normal people is you're having a TV interview, a radio interview. But in classes too, when you are screening, you can have an interview. You can ask the child about his favorite subject. You can ask about, so for example, I'm going to use Kwame now, because I noticed that even with 2 or 3 syllable words, it's quiet. I'm going to say, Kwame, do you feel comfortable talking or calling out the 3 syllables, or would you rather write it? That way I can know where the child's strength is and be able to provide support for that child. And it's not only about the child, so you might want to interview the parents of the child. You want to say, okay, what do you think your child is going through? And how is the child going through this? So interview means you're just asking, having interaction with the teacher and the student, and it can be with a planned sequence of questions, listen to the response and ask for that question and record data. So as I'm asking those questions, I'm recording the data. And again, the reason I'm recording data is so that I can provide directed and targeted intervention for the student. And then real quick, I've been asked to also do like a practical way of using it. So that's why I'm going straight into each one I'm explaining. So this is an example of a parent interview. In a parent interview, you have the student's name, you have the family history, and it's saying learning problem. Is there a learning problem? Yes. So you want to see who had the learning problem. Is it the father or the mother or anybody in this family? Is there a physical history of the student, chronological age, and all of that? And then you want to see the skill area that the child has deficit in. Is it in phonological awareness? Is it difficulty recognizing? And all of those. So you see all of that. Is it alphabet difficulty learning or recalling names of letters? Is it difficulty learning or recalling? So you record all of that so that when you pick up that data, you can know how to provide targeted intervention for that student. And these are just more, this continues this way. So attention, is it handwriting? You just feeling yes, no, really, and all of that. That way you can know. And then there's another good one where the child can either write, because sometimes some of these children, how learning disability can be. Some of them are good in answering yes and no questions. Some of them are good in writing up. This one is a written interview. Say, do you like to read? Why? If yes, why? If no, why not? About how many books do you read? Did you read last year? How often do you read at home? What books have you read recently? What do you do when something doesn't make sense? So I'm reading and I said, so she let the cat out of the mouse. And I'm thinking, what's that? What do you keep quiet? Do you drop the book, or do you try to find out? And that's how you know what to do with a student, and a whole lot of questions. I need to run real quick. Now, what are the things you get from observation and interviews? You are able to establish family history. You saw that in one of the questions in the interview question I shared, the learner's developmental history and other relevant factors. They're able to gather views, e.g. the strength of the child and the difficulties, attitude about learning and the school. You saw that in some of the questions that I read. They're able to explore the learning history of the child. You know, we are able to also look at the various aspects of the child portfolio, learning portfolio. You want to see his handwriting, the spelling. You want to see the structure of the students writing, some of the presentation of their work, either in maths. You want to see the completed work. So that way you can, the spellings, you're able to see that, and so on and so forth. So that way you can know what to do with the child in providing intervention. Case studies. When I was doing my research on this, I'm like, oh, case study is not always used for screening. But I know that in graduate school, we actually went into the schools and we made case studies of the students, you know. Case study just means you are looking at this individual like a real life situation that happened to an individual, and you're not analyzing what you can do to help that individual. In this case, with who is learning, who is struggling to probably read and write. So real quick, a case study is an in-depth detailed examination of a particular individual or a group of people within a real world context. Case studies are important learning tools. They can be used to demonstrate important principles and theories or themes on virtually any topic. They are usually stories or situations taken from real life or created and can be analyzed or acted upon by a class. So I'm going to show you an example of a case study. Ajua is a grade 2 student going to grade 3. Now, again, I said the reason for most of this screening tools I'm sharing with you that informal tools are so that you can know what to do, how to use it and what to do, but most importantly, what to do, okay? Now, look at this case study of Ajua real quick. It says at the end of grade 2, he had no history of any language delay. This is where I am. No family history of learning disability, experienced reading difficulty beginning in kindergarten. That's why it's good to keep record of the child, you know. Sometimes in this part of the world, people have come to me to say, look, this child is in grade 6 and is going to secondary school, and we need you to run an assessment or a screening or an assessment to prove to the external invigilators that this child is struggling with reading. And I go, where is the child's past record? Because the child doesn't have it struggling, and then the child didn't start struggling in grade 6. It had been there from grade 1, grade, sometimes in kindergarten. So it's good to keep history of the child's performance or whatever the child is doing. And this is a good case study for Ajua. So experienced reading difficulties beginning in kindergarten, early difficulties centered on learning letter sound phoneme, learning segmentation and decoding. Again, Ajua had always done well in teacher reading aloud class discussion. The accommodation for her is that the teacher, whenever the teacher reads out, she's able to do well. Intensive explicit phonics intervention, she had done well because based on the issues she had here, this is the help that was provided for her since grade 1. Reading comprehension is good if she can decode the text, you know, if she's able to understand what it's, if it says hastily means to move very fast. Well, that's a script grammar for a grade 1 anyway. So when you say excited, I think also happy, you know. So if she's able to understand what that word is, she will read and understand reading comprehension. Math grade is appropriate. She has idea and vocabulary knowledge for writing, but poor spelling train motivation to write because she cannot spell properly. She doesn't really want to write. So these are the test score for her based on the case study and the history of her performance. She has done the Woodcock-Johnson test of achievement, and then she had a score for word identification is 78, word attack is 88, comprehension is 80, spelling is 82, sentence and all of that. I mean, you can read that real quick. I want to run so that we can meet up, but you get the slide, but just follow me, please. And then, so the question is, how do Ajua difficulty exemplify dyslexia? So from all that we've read, you see a literacy difficulty revolves around decoding and spelling. And the way you can know this is to look at everything that was said about her. She has struggled, decoding. That's why she doesn't like to read, teacher has to read out to her. In her spelling, you know, they said if she doesn't have any issues with spelling, she'll understand what is being read to her. She also has problem with reading comprehension and written expression, but those are due to her decoding spelling problem, not actual comprehension weakness. Can you see how they're analyzing based on what has been said about her history and what she had been through in the case study? Then she has positive family history for dyslexia, is very common, though not universal. Ability to learn verbally strong, no co-occurring ADHD in this case. So that's that case study. Now, what are Adjoa's intervention needs in reading? She needs continuation of highly explicit systematic phonic intervention. Consider increase in intensities. You see why we do this screening? We need to know what to do with the child. She needs real world reading with Johnson, and then especially she's weak and she needs to gain phonological decoding skills. Do not seem to have transfer into real world reading. So, and then more intervention for Adjoa. So that's all about the this case study. So sometimes, and I think one of the ways case study might occur to you might be maybe probably you're a grade 2 teacher or even grade 3 teacher, primary 3 teacher, and then this child is coming into your class. You need to know the history of the child. Someone might have been good, maybe the previous teacher had been good enough to gather those information for you, or probably you are just coming into an environment and you just want to read about the child so you can know what to do. So that's how case studies can be used. Now, sociometric assessment. This one too is, I had to do a little bit of research on it because I'm not very familiar with it, but I know about it because it's used for behavior and to check behavior and performance of children. So what is this is that it mentions interpersonal relationship in a social group. Sociometric measurement or assessment method provide information about an individual's social status, which is their social standing within a group. You know, it helps to check, and I'll get to the explanation very soon. So it helps to check if this child is free talking to a particular person in this class. If it's not, who would they rather talk to? Who would they rather love to be their seatmate? Who would they rather to be their playmate during recess and all of that? And that way, when you check the analysis of what is going on during sociometry, you're able to see who has a tendency to be a leader, and you'll be able to see who has a tendency to be isolated. And that also affects learning for some children. So real quick, sociometric assessment is not commonly used in the screen of dyslexia. Like I said earlier on for my research, I've not really used it. However, Prof. Joe Baker and his colleague in 2007 conducted a survey. The study focused on the relationship between achievement level, diagnostic label, sociometric status, and self-image of students in Dutch elementary education. They studied difference between students with specific learning disabilities and students with general learning disabilities in regular as well as in special education. A total of 1,300 students participated in this study, 861 in general education and 439 in separate special education schools. The study showed that students with general learning disability were more often rejected and had a lower self-image than students with specific learning disability. So you see, it plays a role, even if it's not generally being used. Knowing how interpersonal relationship occurs among students will also help us know if that child will do well with probably peer-assisted learning. For example, if you notice that, okay, this child is struggling with this, but another child is struggling with that, would I rather pair this child to support this child? So this is the graphic representation. If you look at these numbers, we have number 1 all alone here, we have 2, 3, and then scattered numbers. If you look at this, you notice that number 3 is gearing towards number 2 is going towards number 8, and then number 7 like that. But if you look at this, all of them are going towards number 9, which means number 9 has the leadership skills. You know, asking a question of who would rather sit down with, who would you rather have show you something in what you're struggling with, who would you rather go out for, to recess with. You realize that number 9 in this diagram has that skill. And then number 1 has a tendency of being isolated because nobody really chose number 1, and number 1 really chose nobody. So that's one of the examples or ways you can use sociometric techniques for screening. And remember, like I said, it's not just about learning. Also, the environment also matters, the individuals matter. Now, error analysis technique for screening. Error analysis is a method used to document the error that appears in learner language, determine whether those errors are systematic, and if possible, explain what caused them. I don't want to read all of this, and it's also not a common tool for testing individuals with dyslexia, but of course, research has been done, and I'll really quick to show you some examples of how to use the spelling error analysis sample. So if you look at this real quick, this is the name of the child, and this is a date. This 9th of, I think, July. Yeah, January, February, March, April, May, June, July. Yeah, I'm correct. So you're looking at this child, looking at high frequency word. The child wrote T-H-A-Y as opposed to T-H-E-Y. So you put that in brackets when you're observing, when you're doing your error analysis. You note down what the child wrote wrongly, and then you put the right word there. So instead of saying two, the child wrote two, okay? Instead of writing friend, I is missing, it's friend. There, as opposed to writing there as a place, he wrote dear as a possession of people, T-H-E-I-R. As opposed to writing where, as in where, as passage of words, the child wrote W-H-E-R. As opposed to writing accept, the child wrote, so as opposed to writing accept, the child wrote accept. So you want to, the analysis will be that many common words, including common homophones. You can see that homophones, where and where, there and there, and they and they. So this is how you get your analysis. Where is this child having challenges? And that means words that are called the same way but are spelled differently. So your target intervention will be to teach the child homophones. Another challenge the child is having is low frequency word like summer. He wrote summer. Vacation, S-H-U-N, and word like special, complain, hottest. You can see the error. And then your analysis will say, spell one letter, one sound, need to work with prefix, suffix, spelling changes. So this is how you use your error analysis so that you take note of the child's writing record, and then you place what you've seen here, and then you analyze so that you can know how to provide the targeted intervention for this child. This is another good example. The child's name is Lori, and it took place on 18th of August, 2015. And then look at this child, you can see he's trying to write dream. You see, homophones, couch, okay? And you can see that the error here will be vowel pairs, fright, and then grow. So this is how you analyze, and then you place where the issue is, and then you go back as a teacher, as a parent, as a reading interventionist, you go back to make sure that your intervention is targeted towards this report of your reading, of your screening. Now, the use of checklists, there are tools that can, so just a minute again. I'm sorry, some of this, I need to move things around, sorry. So checklists are assessment tools that set out specific criteria which educators and students may use to gauge skill development or progress. Checklist consists of statements that correspond to specific criteria. The answer to each statement is either yes or no, done or not done. It can be, the use of checklists and achievement chart is effective in supporting student learning. Again, you hear me saying student learning, beyond identification, beyond screening. How do we move the student to the next level? This to encourage them to play an active role, not only in their assessment, but in their learning process. So they see where the issue is, and they also see how far they've gone after a while, So let's quickly go to an example of a checklist. So look at this one. It says, this is an adult checklist, because like I kept saying, individual, adults, so everybody, anybody can have a learning disability. So this is a good example. Do you find difficulty in telling left from right? Is map reading or finding your way to a strange place confusing? Different questions. Do you get confused if you have to speak in public? Is your writing difficult? So is your writing difficult to read? Is your spelling poor? And you can see here, it says yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. So that's an example of a checklist. And then you use it. You provide tools for systematic recording, provide students with tools they can use for self-evaluation and a whole lot of them. I'm going to share the slide so you can see the usefulness of checklist. Rating scale is almost like a checklist too. So the rating scale is a tool for obtaining judgment of the degree to which an individual possesses certain behavioral traits. In this case, probably reading or writing. And then those attributes not readily detectable by objective tests of values. In this way, the measurement of personality and performance is done. It's also a subjective method. It's a tool used to observe students' skill and behavior. Rating scales are a form of checklist, like I said, that have been modified by adding descriptive words, numbers, or both to rate adequacy or appropriateness of a student's behavior. So we have descriptive and the numerical kind of checklist. So real quick, this a checklist. The reason is different from, the reason is different from, it is a rating scale, sorry, and it's slightly different from a checklist. It's also a checklist, but it's more, can you see, it gives you more, that you can break it up into numbers. So for example, do you confuse visually similar words such as cat and court? So you see here, it's either rarely, occasionally, often, or most times. So it's not yes or no. That way you know the degree at which that individual needs support or help. Do you lose your place or miss out lines when reading? This one will score 2 if it's rarely. If it's occasionally, you score 4. If it's often, you score 6. If it's most times, you score 8. So that's the difference between a rating scale and a checklist. It breaks it into hierarchy of level of severity. So that's the check. And then at the end of the day, you score and total. The more the score, the more intervention the individual will be needing. The lower the score, the lower intervention the individual will be needing. So use of observation schedule. I'll really run through this. We all know that one of the reasons was to identify the challenge the person is going through and how to provide support for individuals. So that's what I'll just say right now. Sample of behavior schedule. Observation schedule, sorry. Sample of observation schedule, because one of the things we want to achieve with this training is that you can go back, create your own, modify, and be able to help your students. So if you look at this now, you see that this is a schedule that this person, this teacher, this individual, this adult, this person wants to observe a child based on his level of pronunciation of words. So this is the behavior we're observing. This is the class of the subject, the observer. So in this case, maybe Lola, Aneke, the subject might be doing oral reading or reading comprehension. The date might be today's date. The class might be primary 1 or 2 or whatever. Now, I might want to observe 1 pupil today or 2 or 3 pupils. And what I want to observe is how the level at which the student called out word during maybe oral reading. And then like you see, you observe every 5 minutes and record the behavior at the time. So if you notice that this child is substituting initial words, or this is more of initial words, mon, lower for lawn mover, is the child substituting words, you record it and say, probably you record this is what the child is doing and all of that, and then you record, and then when you're done, you put, so how this one is actually done, use a tally system. So you put tally, you put 1. If it's twice, you put 1, 2. When you get to 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you cross it, and then you get your total right here. That way you can know how many times the child substituted words. And then you're able to have the targeted intervention for that child. Anecdote records. They're a quick, open-ended way to record observation describing what happened in the teacher's own words. Okay? The behavior or concern or noteworthy event at the end of the school day listed must reflect on and better interpret patterns of conduct to determine the attention needed to be attended to. I said it. What are you doing? Why are you doing what you're doing? And what do you need to help that individual to move forward? To make an anecdotal reliable and valid, it should define behavior. What are you looking out for? This child would delete beginning word. This child would delete or we call out a word wrongly, or the child will spell word wrongly. Is that what you're looking out for? Then you must create the form for recording. You must record the incident as soon as possible, and you make it simple as and as factual by avoiding personal interpretation and emotions. I'm going to show you a form real quick of a sample anecdotal record. So you can see that that's the name, the date, the time, the observer, the setting, description of events, what happened, and then the signature. I want to show you one that I did for one of my students here a while, though I changed the date here. If you look at this anecdotal record, again, I need someone to please read this for me so that another person will analyze what this anecdotal record is. Anybody please unmute yourself and read, please.
Okay, so yes.
Thank you, go ahead.
So this one is anecdotal record. Holly sits at her desk, biting her fingernail. She looks away from the video on the projector, and then she puts her hand on her chin and scratches her hair. She stares at her finger again, opens her textbook and scribbles something in her textbook. She picks up her pencil and taps it on her palm. When Miss J asked her the meaning of the word discipline, which was a word from the videos, she responded by saying, "What do you mean?" Do you want me to continue or should I?
Yeah. So go ahead, because I'm going to explain what. Yeah, go ahead, please.
Okay. So notes, inference. Holly has been asked to look at the video on the projector and pay attention to cause and effect word in the video. While the video was going on, she was looking at her finger, scribbling on her textbook and tapping her palm with her pencil. When Miss J asked her a question, she was unable to give an appropriate response. Miss J might need to rephrase the question in order for Holly to understand it and give a response. Or perhaps Holly was distracted by the other activities she was engaged in during the video presentation.
Thank you. I didn't get your name. Your name, please?
Helen.
Helen, thank you. Oh, Helen, is that you?
Yeah.
Well done. Okay, so what happened here? Remember I said it has to, let me go back to that so you can see what I said when it comes to anecdotal record. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm moving faster. I need to go back, sorry. So that we can understand what happened. Oh no, I'm moving really fast, yeah. Just give me a minute and I'll get back to where I'm supposed to be. Okay, I wanted us to go back to where they were explaining to us that to make an data reliable and valid, it should keep it factual by avoiding personal interpretation and emotions. Now, if you look at what Ellen just read, let me go back. Remember, after when she was reading all of this, this is you, a teacher, whoever you are, and this is me really. I did this. This was a real case scenario when I was in my graduate program. I was supposed to run an anecdote regarding a student, so I can see sometimes how we feel that a child might be struggling with something. Really, they might not be. It might be some issues. So look at this issue of Holly now. I took this anecdote, observing what she was doing during the class, and then I needed to make inference or notes. If you notice, I was being objective. I was not being emotional. The two things I saw was that she was looking at her finger, so it's probably she was distracted, or genuinely she might not understand what the question was. I never said she couldn't answer because she was tapping her pencil and all of that. And I never said she couldn't respond because she didn't know. I said the teacher might need to rephrase the question, because sometimes when we interpret some of our learners and say, oh, it's dyslexia, oh, it can't read, we need to know what is really going on. And that's one good thing, good use of anecdotal recording. So I'm going to Teachermade test. Oh, I think I have a lot of time, so I can slow down now. And I'll take my time here. So Teachermade test, normally we call it informal test. And the reason we call it informal test is because it's not what do you call it, like? It's not a criterion reference. It's not like, how do I explain it now? So for example, in Nigeria, we do WAEC, we do SSC. It's not a universal. Somebody help me. What do you do in Ghana, please? What are those general exams you do? You do WAEC also. Somebody help me, please. Do you do junior WAEC, senior WAEC? Do you do common entrance in Ghana?
So we also do WAEC, which is for how do you call that? WAEC is for the senior high school.
Yes.
And we do what we call BEC, that is for junior high school.
Yes.
Basic Education Certificate Examination.
Yes. And those exams, we call them attainment, test of attainment. And the difference is that we have test of achievement and test of attainment. What Teachermade record, Teachermade tests they are called test of attainment. And what does that mean? What have I done? What have I taught the student? What has he learned? And how is he able to show me what he has learned? And for me, I think we should pay more attention to that, as opposed to, and for me, and I think that assessment should even be called learning to know, as opposed to learning to pass. Because what we do with test of attainment is, oh, you've learned now. What are you going to have all A's or all B's? It's more general. But with this, it's more like I've taught A to Z. I want to check where this child is from A to Z before moving to 2-letter words. And that is what mostly Teachermade tests are. That's what they are in simple explanation. What have I taught and how do I check that my student is getting value, or the child or the student will need help? I need to go back to reteach it. So all of that written here is all that I've explained. Teachermade tests are usually designed to assess what students are learning or have learned. So they are usually tests of achievement, or that's another word you can call it. Now, I need to move. Okay. Oh, no. So I've been asked also, let me go back. So these tests, the task given to me is to walk you through the core areas of reading, writing, maths, and spelling. What I'm doing with this is, because I've explained to you, is I'm going to walk you through what you should be looking out for, so that you will know how to develop it. Teachermade tests can be developed by an experienced teacher. Even, I like to say experienced teacher, because in spite of the word, sometimes we do have teachers that are certified to be teachers. But then if you really know what you're doing as a teacher, you can actually develop your own Teachermade test. You know, it guides the teacher in constructing and using its or own classroom test and rubric to improve student achievement. That's the issue. For me, that's a big deal beyond the test of attainment. Is this child learning? How can he show me? How do I know? What do I need to do? Okay, so I'm going to go to the reading, which is one of the curriculum area. So here, what you need to know so that you can develop your own Teachermade test, or so that when you are using probably the commercialized one, I'm going to show some examples. We all know most of them. Johnson is one of them that I've used for that child. Informal reading inventory is another, and towards the end of the presentation, I'll just run through some of the commercialized one. But the ones you can use, what you can develop, please listen so that you can know how to develop it yourself. When it comes to reading, it's usually divided into decoding skills and comprehension. Decoding means ability to read. Like I'm seeing a word that says H-A-T, heart. My ability to call that word heart means decoding. Then comprehension, to understand. So most time reading usually is divided into ability to read and understand. And then the specific behavior included in each of these subdomains will depend on the particular curriculum and its sequences. So I'm saying to you now that wherever you find yourself as a teacher or a parent, whatever domain you want to address for that student will depend on the curriculum and how you decide to sequence it. Okay. Now let me go real quick to a good, like I said, informal reading inventory. I wanted to just bring that up before I go into the breaking down of how the reading and the essence of the Teachermade test for the core subject of reading. Now there's something called informal reading inventory. What is that? Let me just quickly read it out and I'll explain. Informal reading inventory is often developed and used by teachers in making decisions about referral or initial placement in a reading curriculum. Informal reading inventory assess decoding and reading comprehension over a wide range of skill levels within the specific reading curricula used in the classroom. Am I speaking above your heads, please? What this simply means is that you are in a classroom, you are a primary 3 teacher, and then some children come into your class, into primary 2, and you are from primary 2 to primary 3, and you're thinking, what do I do? What do I do? How do I know where to place these children when it comes to reading? What you need to use is you develop some words that are, there's some words, if you could even go online, really, you will see, and if you check the informal reading inventory, you see it online, some word that some kids should be able to pronounce or to be able to read in grade 1, grade 2, grade 3. You pull out those words and quickly run those words by the students. Sometimes it could even be some reading levels, you know, and they're able to tell at what level that child is. It could either be a reading or word in isolation. When the child begins to struggle, you can now tell, oh, this child might not go beyond beginning level, middle level, and all that. So I said, if a reading series prepared for several grade level is used, passage can be selected from the beginning, middle, or end of each grade. So if, for example, you start with the middle and the child is struggling, you go to the beginning of that reading, of that. So for example, let me use this example. I don't know if some of us have seen those books that have them in level 1, level 2. So for example, you have a book that says maybe The Cat and the Mouse, and behind the book you see level 1, level 2, level 3. It means that the story, if you want to know where the child is able to read, give the child level 1. If he's struggling, if he's reading it easily, then move the child to level 2. If he's reading it better, move to level 3. So that's what a reading inventory could look like. You want to know where to place that child. If the student begin, oh, sorry. Oh, I'm so sorry. Okay, now I have it. So if a student begin reading the easiest material and continue reading until they can decode less than 85% of the word, okay? So you will be able to tell if the child is struggling and the child is able to decode less than 85% of the word, okay? So that's where you now place where the child is. I hope this makes sense, really, because if it doesn't, please call me back so that I can explain again. Now, the only criteria that is acceptable is an accuracy rate of 95% is recommended for independent reading, and 85 to 95% accuracy is considered the level at which a student required instruction. Remember, I keep saying what you step for and how you provide instruction. Now, let me give you a very good example. For you to be able to know the reading level of a child, for example, and this is also a screening. I hope you know it's a screening technique for reading. That's what I'm actually explaining. Teachermade technique for reading, for screening reading. You bring in some words, like for example, you bring like 50 words, and this child is able to read about 75% of that word. That child would need intervention or would need help. If the child is able to read 85%, the child will need help. That means that child needs help. But if that child is able to read between 85 to 95% accurately, that is the level at which the child is. You may not necessarily have to do any form of intervention. That means the child is reading good and is an acceptable criteria. Am I making sense, please? I need response. Is it making sense?
Yes, you totally are.
Great, thank you. Now, I'm breaking it down again too, because in schools, we have different grade levels, but generally you can categorize them into beginning skills and advanced skills. So for reading beginning skills, what are those criteria we check? you are looking at beginning, most times you are looking at beginning decoding. And I told you earlier on that decoding is ability to read a word. You see a word, so when you spell the word artifact, you are encoding the word. When you spell or when you write art, you are encoding the word. When you call it artifacts, you are decoding the word. Ability for you to read a word. So what we do for beginning skills when it comes to reading is that you check the ability to analyze and manipulate sound and syllables, and that is phonological awareness. So you are looking at beginning decoding. What you check for beginning reader is the ability for them to decode, and you're checking how they can manipulate sound. If I have the word fact, F-A-T, and I remove the word, the letter T, and I replace it with N, that will be fan. Then you can tell that, oh, this child can actually decode. But if I add the word F-A-T and I replace it with N, and the child is still saying fat, then that child is having an issue, not recognize that I've removed the final word, sorry, letter, which is T. So if I decide to remove A from F-A-T and I put what can I put? F-I-T, and it becomes fit. If that individual, that child, because it's a beginning skill anyway, an adult can also have that. That's the beginning skill. That means that individual is struggling. So if I were to develop a teacher-made screening or test, teacher-made test for this kind of student, all I need to do is to put those words and keep changing the words, and I'm able to screen that child to see where the issue is, okay? Now, most time instruction in the beginning reading require letter recognition. If I put the letter, so for example, I think I have some cards, let's use to show you. So for example, if I say, I don't know if you can see, can you see, because I know I'm sharing my screen, can you still see me? Can you still see me?
Yes, we can.
Yes, yes, we can still see you.
Amazing,
yes.
Amazing. So for example, instruction in beginning reading, letter recognition. If I say, what letter is this? Can you respond to this? Somebody respond.
E.
Fantastic. That means you can recognize the letter. Now, letter sound association. If I say, what sound does E make? I need a short vowel. What would that be?
Eh.
Fantastic. Well done. Then if I give you a word like, 1 minute, I'm being a teacher here real quick. Which is a simple word now. Let me give you this one. Oh, it's so long. I don't want to give you a long word. If I give you this word, what word is this? Can you see it?
I can't see it clearly. I can see
It's not so visible.
Oh my God. Oh, you have to see it. Okay. Is this visible now?
Yes, it is. Play.
What word is this? Play. Amazing. So this is what I'm more or less having a teacher-made test with you as my student who are beginning learners. Okay. And then sometimes morphology could be, if I say, as I added ED to this play, it will now be played because I've added a suffix to it. If we're able to get all of that, I know that, oh, you don't have a problem, there's no issue. But if you struggle with it, then I know that I need to provide support. So like I said to you, my aim for most of this course, reading, writing, and maths, and writing, teacher-made test, is for me to be able to see what to do, so that when you sit down as a teacher, as a classroom teacher, as a parent, you know how to identify what the challenge is with that student and know how to provide support. Remember, I said the coding skill is for early beginnings. That's what the beginning skills is, what they find issue for early readers. That's what they find issues with. And luckily, we don't be able to do that real quick. And then the strategy that you use is, I already asked you, see, say. I was asking you, what letter is this? So you see it and you say it. And then here, say. I've asked you, what sound does it make? And then you answered me. Now, the acceptable criteria for that will be automatic retrieval. When I ask you, you answer me. Rapid response, speed, accuracy. Learning is 90 to 95% correct. So if I do all of this and my child is wait. It's E, no, it's F. No. And that means I need to provide support to an extent where the child retrieves the information real quick, respond quickly, speedily, accurately, and it must be 90 to 95% accuracy. I need to. Okay. So for another issue they have, like I know I said, decoding and comprehension. For reading comprehension, the strategy we use for beginning readers is retelling response to comprehension question. So when a child reads and you want to know if the child understands, you can just tell them, can you tell me what happened in your own words? So that's what retelling is all about. And for all that I'm trying to say here right now, you are somehow having a teacher-made test, in the sense that the child has read about probably what maybe a community is, and he has read about community being small and closely knitted and all of that. And then you're not asking the child, what did you read? Can you tell me your own words? An adult, you can be able to tell if the child understand what he has read or not. And then there are ways of doing it. Don't forget that some kids might be in the level, maybe in kindergarten or in nursery 1 or preschool or primary school. So don't forget that sometimes the child might need to say as opposed to write. Because if a child is in probably even some primary 1 students, beginning primary 1 students, if you ask the child to retell by writing, he might know what he wants to say, but because he doesn't have the skill to write it, he may not write appropriately. Remember, you are testing for comprehension and not for writing. So you need to be careful and know what skill works for that child. So you either make the child write or say, depending on that ability level of that student. You can also ask them questions. Why is this moving so fast? I'm sorry, I don't know why my, oh dear. Okay, I'm back. I'm really sorry. So you can also ask questions about what the student have read. You ask them to tell you about the main idea. So what was it? So for example, my son, we're reading about community and we're reading about large communities and small communities, you know, and then one of the main idea they asked him, so what did you read about? You know, he was able to say, okay, we read about small community, big community, and how small community are closely related, and in big communities, people don't even know one another. They just live in their houses and all of that, you know. So that's how you can tell if the child understands the main idea. You want to understand the important relationship and the relevant details in that topic. If the child is not able to, then you know that you need to provide support. Your targeted instruction will be based on that. Again, I said the reason I'm making this more explanatory is that when you go back to whatever curriculum you're using, whatever level you're using, you can take this that I'm explaining to begin to develop your own teacher-made tests in this core area of reading. You may also use questions. Question may be supplied, or selected form. So you might either put ABC, or you can put in such a way that you put all the questions and either they hear it or say it, or they sit and write it. So question may be in supply or selection form, okay? And either hear, say, or see write format can be used conveniently. So it can be whatever they choose. So they can supply you in however they choose, but you will know that level of functioning, okay? Then the rate of oral reading. This is very important. You know that, and I always say it when I talk about the pillars of reading, I say we have phonological awareness, if you agree with me. We have letters and association, we have vocabulary, we have reading fluency, and we have reading comprehension. There's no way comprehension can take place if reading fluency is not in place. If a child cannot read well, right, comprehension will not take place because there'll be some words that the child will struggle with. And that's another thing you need to look out for in your tests. You want a child to read, but for example, you know that a child can read 100 words in 2 minutes. A good way to check the rate at which the child is reading would be to give the child a reading comprehension that has more than 100 words, maybe 120 words or 150 words, for example. Then you set your timer. When you give the child that reading sample, make sure as a teacher you have your own sample too. So for example, the student has one sample, you have a sample, you have your pencil, and you keep taking notes. So the child is reading, you put your timer for 2 minutes, because averagely because the child can read normally 100 words in 2 minutes. You are giving the child now 150 words or 200 words. You put your timer, and then the child begins to read. As the child is reading, you take note of the words it's not calling appropriately. It may be to the fact that the child cannot decode the other word, or a substitute, whatever it is, you just know those words. Now, for you to know the reading rate of that child, you add both the words he was able to pronounce correctly and the words he wasn't able to pronounce correctly together, and you divide it by 2, which is the minutes that you use, and that will give you the average reading rate of that child. So a rate, acceptable criteria for reading is a rate of 80 words per minute with 2 or fewer errors. So if for example, you give this child, like I gave that example, if that child is able to read 80 words with 2 or fewer examples, that will be considered a desirable goal. So in reading words, oh my God. I'm really sorry, I don't know why this is happening today. Maybe I need to click and find over. Sorry. Okay, so rate of 80 words per minute with 2 or fewer error is a desirable goal for reading. Why is this happening? Please bear with me as I'm moving my cursor, it keeps changing my slide. I don't know why. Is there any technical guru that can explain and tell me what to do, please? It has really never happened to me. Okay, so let's go on. Rate of 80 words per minute with 2 or fewer error is a desirable goal for reading. This is meant to be reading. This is a typo error for me. Reading words from list and a rate of 100 words per minute with 2 or fewer error for words in text. So if the child is reading the words like in isolation, like this, I'm calling out the word and the child is reading. I don't know if you see what I'm doing. And the child is reading. That means the child is able to read 80 words per minute with 2 or fewer error. And that is a good acceptable criteria. But if the child is in a text and the child is reading a book or a text, not in isolation, it should be word from a list, a rate of 100 words per minute with 2 or fewer errors for word in text. Does that make sense? Please let me know. Or you want me to explain again? Does it make sense?
Yes, I think it's quite clear.
Fantastic, thank you. Now, for advanced skills, remember we have different skills in our classroom. We have the advanced, beginner, and all of that. That's why when people say, well, where do we begin to test for dyslexia? You begin from the very beginning, okay? So now for advanced skill, the skill we are looking at for is reading comprehension. And some of the examples are summarizing, drawing inference, main idea, recognize and understanding symbolism, sarcasm, and irony, and so on and so forth. Now, how do you know for sure that this individual is able to read and understand? Remember, reading comprehension, ability to read effortlessly and understand what you're reading. You could ask the person to summarize, okay? You could ask the person to read and write. That is strategy that you can use. You can use multiple choice questions, and you can use extended essay questions. These are simple. We know what summarization is, okay? So you have like a student in probably 8th grade or 10th grade, SS1. I don't know how you call it in Ghana, year 1, year 2, year 3, year 8, year 9, year 10, whatever. But that advanced skill, advanced reader, The ability to summarize and summarize well will help you know. So these are some of the things you can use as a Teachermade test to check reading capability or reading level of comprehension level of this individual. Now, accepted criteria, how to use, what is that criteria that say this person does not need intervention, this person is good. Less than 100 to 200 words per minute is a normal rate of reading. 200 to 400 words per minute are normal rate for comprehension. And it's not for reading 100 to 200 words per minute. I think I should do a test for you guys. Unfortunately, I don't have anything to check, but I'll pick somebody later on and I'll do a test for that person. I'm looking at the names now, so let me pick a name now. Okay, so I know. So 400 words per minute are the normal rate for comprehension. So a person can read and say, oh, he read so quick and he read all these words. Does the person have comprehension? Does the person understand? Remember, when it comes to reading, the core skills we are looking for is decoding and comprehension, reading and comprehension. So it's not enough to read. It's also important that after reading, you understand. No, and this says going beyond 500 words per minute can compromise the quality of reading and comprehension. However, reading rate of some students may exceed 1,000 words per minute. Those students must be students that are gifted and talented. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think as we may not be really, but so let's go to mathematics, because I've asked to talk about Teachermade tests in core areas. I've done reading, I'm going to mathematics or maths, as we want to call it. So, sorry, just give me, I just want to, I'm on track. Okay. So, what I wanted to put out here, this is what I found during my research. But generally, it's also almost the same all over the world. Mathematics, like when I was in my my certification program in the US, mathematics is mathematics all over the world. English literacy is literacy all over the world. Science is science all over the world. The only thing that is different is social studies, because we are looking at history of Ghana, you're looking at heritage of Ghana. If I'm Ghanaian, if I'm Nigerian, cultural heritage of Nigeria, history. If I'm in the US, I'm looking at history of the US. You know, but for maths and English, if I may use those words as we use them, it's universal. So mathematics standard for, God, not again. Mathematics standard for pre-kindergarten. So true secondary education deals with both content, which is number, measurement. If you go to your math textbook, you will see it. Algebra, geometry, and data and statistics. So that's running from pre-kindergarten to secondary school. And then it involves process, which is reasoning, representation, problem solving, connections, and communication. And I got it from National Council of Teachers of Mathematics. That's my source, but universally, that's what goes on. Then for special education goals, beyond all of these that I've said, the goal for mathematics stress computational proficiency and fluency in basic skills. So if you're working with any child who is struggling with maths, if the child has been identified and has been placed for support for special education, your target goal will be computational proficiency and fluency in basic skills, depending on what level that individual is. Again, mathematical curricula usually contain both problem sets that require only computation and word problem that require selection and application of the correct algorithm, as well as computation. I know some of us don't like maths. I know, but please just stay with me. So that when you have that student, and luckily Rosina said I should talk about it, so I would have just been reading. So that's why I'm talking about it now. The difficulty of application problem goes well beyond the difficulty of the computation involved in sorry, let me read that again. Difficulty of application problems goes well beyond the difficulty of the computation involved and is related to 3 factors. Remember I said mathematics curriculum usually contain both problem sets that requires only computation and word problem. So when we say computation, x plus y equals z, 1 plus 1 equals 2. What problem? I have 2 pencils. Akos gave me 2 other pencils. How many pencils do I have altogether? Can you see computation? Can you see what problems? Now, difficulty of application problem goes well beyond the difficulty of the computation. Is that making sense? The difficulty of the application problem, it goes well beyond the difficulty of the computation. The application is different from the computation. When you're computing, when you're taking out x plus y equals to z, the difficulty of taking it out is different from how you now compute it. So if x is 1 and y is 2, that means x plus y is 1 plus 2, giving me 3. It has several factors for individuals who are struggling with maths. And that's one of the things, is that the number of steps involved in the solution. For example, a student might have to add and then add and multiply. So when you're looking at a child, I say, oh, this child, I really don't know what the problem is with this child in mathematics or in maths. You want to check out what the steps are involved. If this child is having a problem, do I have to highlight the first step, the second step, and the third step? And that's a strategy we use when we're teaching children that are struggling with math. We give them what you do first, what you do second, and what you do third. So as a teacher who is trying to develop a teacher-made test in maths, I want to be able to put questions that have multiple steps and see where that child is struggling. Another issue, the amount of extraneous information, especially when it's word problem. There are too many information, sometimes even the ability for that child to decode the meaning of the words. So you say, Femi's mom bought him 2 packs of chocolates. He was excited. And then he said thank you to his mom. Then, or thereafter, the mom bought him another set of chocolates. It's getting a bit complicated. The student might not even understand the meaning of excited. So even to get the details out of it, he's lost. And then you would thereafter, for goodness sake, it's too complicated for me. So you want to check where the issue is when you are assessing, when you're screening, when you're developing your test. And this is why I try to put all of this so that as you're developing that on your own, because in this part of the world, we do not really have those we call them non-reference tests. Most times you see some of these tests that are developed in developed countries and it doesn't fit our context sometimes. So most times we make do with teacher, for me, really, like I said, that test of achievements, what the child is learning, and you are checking to see where the child is, for me, makes more sense. It adds more value. You know, you're able to trace, it stays with the child as opposed to wanting the child to just pass. So the child is learning to retain information as learning to just pass. Okay. So when you're putting up those tests, this is how you look at some of these points and develop those tests, and you're also able to check where the child is struggling. Then another factor is that whether the mathematics operation is directly implied by the vocabulary used. I give an example, the word problem. Example, words such as and or more imply addition. So if you don't know, I have 2 pencils. Blessing gave me 2 pencils more. And more means addition. Most time when we're working with children who are struggling, we underline, we just give them those words and say, and when you say the word and or more, just know that you're supposed to have addition in that space. Whereas such word as each may imply division. Okay, and all of this, like I said, I'm used to doing research and evidence-based projects. So I had to research for them. This is where I got all of this from. Okay. At any grade level, the specific skill and concept included in each of these subdomain will depend on the state standard and the particular curriculum and its sequence. Like I said, the way this might go might not be the way to go in a primary 1 class in Ghana. It might not be the same way to go in primary 1 class in Nigeria or South Africa or another country, for example, but the general concept is the same. Okay, so you just need to know what exactly you are looking for when you are developing your Teachermade test in this area. Really, I really do not know what's happening today. Once I move my cursor, thank God I know where I am. Okay, again, for beginning skill, you know, I talk about beginning skill for reading. Now I'm going to beginning skills for math. For beginning skill, they're looking at all numbers, operation of addition. I'm sure if you look at our curriculum, it's almost the same. For beginning skill, you're looking at subtraction, multiplication, division. My kids are at beginning skill, so I know, I see it in their books, their textbooks, so I know this is where they are. And that's what elementary classes are. Reading readiness for beginning students, we are looking at classification and one-on-one correspondence. You know, you are looking at, is this multiplication, is it subtraction, you know, and all of that. Vocabulary and concepts are quantitative words, e.g. same. Which of these are the same? Equal. So quantitative words are like equal, same, and larger, are words that you find in most of these skills. Now, you also see spatial concepts like left, above, next. What comes next? When we do greater than, left hand, to your left, which is greater than, which is left, less than. So you see concept like that. Then numeration deals with writing and identifying numerals, counting, ordering, and so forth. How do you count? Forward, count backwards. What number is this? And all of that. Again, the same strategy we use for reading. See, say, what number is this? Like I'll show you in the flashcard. And then see, write. You look at the number, you know this number 2. You look at, oh, this lesser than, greater than, and then you write that. Now, the acceptable criteria as you are developing whatever tool you want to develop as a teacher, the criteria for computation accuracy is accuracy, fluency, sorry. The criteria for the acceptable criteria is for computation, accuracy, and fluency are stressed in beginning mathematics. So they must be accurate. They must be 1 + 1, 2, 2 × 2, 4. All those accuracy and fluency must be there. Now, teachers do not stop their instruction when students respond accurately, but they also continue instruction to build automaticity, ability to say it immediately. Consequently, a teacher may accept somewhat lower rate of accuracy, that is 80%. Okay, so you are targeting towards, for mathematics, you're targeting towards 100. You must be able to do it accurately. 80 might be a pass mark, depending on how you want to score, but anything below 80, you need to work on a targeted intervention for that student. So let's go to advanced skills now. More advanced mathematics skill, that is, I need to put I here, will be fraction, decimals, ratio, percentages, and geometry. And you build an whole number operation. Those are some of the skills you find in numeracy for, or mathematics for advanced skills. But, no. Okay. Now, skills are taught to levels of comprehension and application. Most times when we're teaching those advanced levels, secondary school, for example, you're teaching them to comprehension and for them to be able to apply. You know, I jokingly say that most, I don't know if that is also a joke in Ghana. We say, oh, X, most time when we're in school, I've seen it on social media several times, X, if X is 1 and Y is 2, find X. And people are saying, we are still looking for the X till today. It's a lie, we're not looking for X. It's because we don't understand the purpose of what we're doing. If you knew the application of what we're doing, you'll not be looking for X. Because if they say to you that X is 1 and Y sorry, if they say to the X is 1, right? What is 2X? That means 2 times 1 is 2. And simply say, if I say X is 1, for example, if I say X is 1, I bought this kente material for 100 cedis. How much will I buy 2 of this same kente material? That'll be 200 cedis, and that is X. So most times when we're teaching for maths, we are teaching for comprehension, for advanced skill and application, unlike beginning skills. Okay, so what are the strategies that we use for those? See and write. X is 1, 2X is, you see it, you write it. Okay, now acceptable criteria for that will be accuracy is stressed over fluency, except for a few facts such as half, which is 0.5 and 50. So accuracy, what is, so 1/2 is half, 0.5 is half, 50% is also half, or fraction, you know. The teacher must take into account the extent to which specific student disability will interfere with performance. Remember, I told you that for children with special needs, there's some criteria we need to look out for. So you need to be careful so that you don't overburden that student or you don't underestimate the students. So, for example, difficulty in sequencing of information and incomprehension may interfere with student performance. Items that require problem solving and comprehension of mathematical concepts. This is just for students with special needs. So, as you are developing that your tool, Teachermade test, these are things you should consider based on where you are. Are you in fraction? Are you in the, wherever you are? Are you looking out for skills of comprehension and application? Are you looking out for how the student is able to use the strategy? And are you looking out for accuracy? Now let's go to spelling, which is another core subject area. Spelling, according to this definition, is the production of letters in the correct sequence to form a word. Production of letters. If I were to spell, what name now? If I were to spell father, F-A-T-H-E-R, the letters are coming after one another, and then I'm spelling it, okay? And those letters they're called graphemes. The pronunciation will be called phoneme, father. Now, the specific words that are assigned as spelling words may come from several sources. I'm telling you, what I'm trying to say here is that there are sources from where you might want to test for that child. It could be from so for example, I said my song, they were talking about community, and different words were used in that comprehension passage about community, or community or community helpers. If I ask him to spell a farmer, for example, because a farmer is a community helper. If I ask him to spell farmer, for example, and he has used that word in that comprehension that they've done. If he's not able to spell farmer, then there's what to be done. So what I'm trying to say is that you can pick out words from a comprehension passage or that the child is able to do already, or you create word lists based on that individual's level of academic performance or functioning, or in a content area, or in their own written work. There was a day I saw my daughter's work, and they were doing word and so, for example, they were doing numbers and words, and I saw number 15, 1-5, and she wrote 15, and I think the teacher missed that spelling, and then I called her because I wanted to know what was going on, and I said, can you spell 15 for me? And she goes F-I-F-T-E-L. So okay, and now I know you can spell it because it could have been an error. And that's one thing we need to also take note of as we are screening these children. Let's be sure that we're not assuming. Check what is going on. The words can be taken from their written work. We want to check if they can really spell it. Now, I did not want to separate this because I would have said beginning and advanced. In high school and college, students are expected to use dictionaries to spell correctly any word they use. So if a student is using the word, you want to see, can he really spell this word? Some children with dyslexia, they use big words. They use big, I've seen And you're like, okay, can we put that word in writing? And they're like, you're looking like, I don't know if you met them who are able to read, speak so well. I know of a few. They can speak so well, but they cannot spell the words they're using. So you want to also check for that as to develop your Teachermade test. So from 4th grade upwards, spelling words are typically assigned, and students are left to their own device to learn them. So I remember, although there's an argument to that, but then if this child is in 4th grade, that means the child had not had any issue. If you're going to use this strategy, the child has not had any issue with spelling from lower grade. So you can assign those words to the child and help the child now learn how to spell those words. Okay. And then from 5th grade, in the first 3 grades, spelling is, okay, see what I'm saying now? In the first 3 grades, spelling is usually taught systematically using phonics, morphology, also phonological awareness, rote memorization, or some combination of these three approaches, or more actually. So you don't use this approach for advanced readers, for beginning people that are beginning to learn to spell. You have to help them to see the root word, the compound word, the root word, the prefix word, the suffix, the letter sound association, how you manipulate, and that's how, because research has also shown that spelling and reading should go hand in hand. Okay, so that's why it's good for us to know how this works, so that you can know how to test. I'm going to do an example test towards the end, but this is basically what you should be looking at as you develop those Teachermade tests in core area of spelling. Now, teachers may assess mastery of the pre-spelling rules associated with the particular approach they are teaching. For example, when a phonics approach is used, student may have to demonstrate mastery of writing the letter associated with specific vowels, consonants, consonant blends, digraphs, and diphthongs. Am I speaking French? Are we all familiar with all I've said? Vowels, consonants, consonant blends, digraphs, and diphthongs. Any question on those things I just mentioned? Those words I mentioned? Any question? Should I go on? Hello?
I don't think there's a question yet, but if anybody has any question, you can raise your hand. Okay, I'm getting a comment that you can go on.
Thank you. Now, assessing mastery of spelling. You can either use recognition response. So you want to see if this child can really spell. The teacher provides them with list of alternative spelling of words using 3 to 4 alternatives. And read a word to the student. The student must select the correct spelling of the dictated word from the alternatives. Emphasis on accuracy. So you want to see, by the time you give him, so for example, you wanted a child, let's even use a simple word like I keep using fat. Okay, let's use fat. So I show fat, I show what far, F-A-R, I show.
Lola, just a quick one. So I would like to remind people that Lola's presentation will be coming to an end in the next 17 minutes. So kindly
I'm almost done. I'm almost done. Don't worry. Thank you.
I'm actually asking people to prepare their questions ahead of the Q&A time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. So bring the question on. So that's what that's about. The teacher provides them with lists of alternative spellings of words. Then the child has to pick out the right words from what she has called out. Okay. Then spelling dictated single words. The teacher dictates words and the student write them in, not I, write them down. Sorry, I needed to delete that. Although teachers often give a spelling word and then use it in sentences, students find the task easier if the spelling word is given. Okay. So you're saying, write the word, they detect the word. And just saying, So sometimes when you're using words like some words like farm, F-A-R-M, farm. There's another word like P-H-A-R-M-A-C-Y, pharmacy, pharmacy. That's like people that dispense drugs, or do they dispense? Medical term anyway. So you're thinking, which of that word is it? Are you spelling? Is it the PH word or the word that has F word? Okay. So sometimes the teacher detects words and the students write the word down, or the teacher give a spelling word and then use it in a sentence. So I'm saying farm as in the person that goes to the farm, and it, oh, okay, F-A-R-M. Okay, that's how you check for that. Now, spelling word in context. So then write paragraph using words given by the teacher. This approach is as much a measure of written expression as of spelling. Okay, so to then write word using, you have a word that uses to write a paragraph. Okay, the teacher can also use this approach in instruction of written language to ask students to write paragraph and count the number of words spelled correctly. Okay, so then write the paragraph using words given by the teacher. So if I say, use this word in a sentence, dejected, just dejected, or let me use a good word, excited. So you want to see how that student will use the word in the, and then you want to see how the spelling is used in that context. So for example, I say, write me a story, or write me a paragraph using the word dejected to describe a lot in that paragraph. You want to see if the child can actually spell the word dejected or excited. Then students self-monitor of errors. Some teachers teach. So if a student write a word by themselves, you teach the student to monitor their own performance. I like this one because that means the student that own the spelling. So you're saying, there's something wrong here. I'm not going to show you. I want you to find it and tell me what you spell correctly and what you spell wrongly, and then pick it out for me yourself. So somehow I'm already assessing the child, if the child can spell. So these are some ways you can develop a teacher-made test. For written language, very quick, written language is a representation of a spoken or gestural language by means of writing system. The preliminary skill for letter formation and rudimentary spelling have been mastered before written language. So they must have mastered all those letters and association. They must have mastered, when I want to write the word farm, I have the consonant F, the short vowel R, and then the bossy R, and then the consonant M. So before a child or an individual can write, they have all those, must have the prerequisite skills, all those rudiment skills of letters and association. They must have phonological awareness, how words are put together. They must have all of those. The written language curricular usually stress both content and style. So if I can spell all that, how do I, so this is like an essay. How do I put all of this together in my content? Write about how you spent your last holiday. Some children will struggle because they don't have content. What style are they using? The other day, my friend was talking about a child who writes so well. And she said, do you like a style? And she said, yes or no was the beginning. Yes or no was the style she began the writing with. And then she went on to write about a particular instrument and why we should use that instrument. So that's the style and the content. How deep, how well do you use the content? For a lot of teachers, if you don't know some of this, it may be tough for you to have a teacher-made test in this aspect, and even to, and I think people that really are good at it, that study English as a core maybe on the graduate level, so the writing style and all that. But even at any level, this could also help you to check for grammar, for diction, and all of that. Okay, the most basic instruction in written language is penmanship. That is the formation, spacing, uppercase, lowercase, be it for younger students or older students, and sometimes the cursive writing are taught at this stage for lower, the beginning learners. The end instruction stresses on accuracy, and criteria are generally qualitative. Accuracy of spelling, accuracy of using, where do you use capital letter, where do you use small letter, punctuation, and all of that. One student can fluently write letters and words. Teacher focus on teaching students to write content. For beginners, content generation is usually reduced to generation of words in meaningful sequence. Teachers may use story titles, pictures to show. Sometimes you want a child to write and you bring in picture, what happened first, what happened second, next, what happened third, you know, and then the child sequences that, and then you prompt the child, depending on what the child can do, and you begin to write. And that way you can also tell if the child is struggling and can provide support for the child. When the allotted time for writing is over, the teacher counts the number of words and divide the number of words by the time to obtain a measure of rates, you know. So if it's okay, I'm giving you 5 minutes. How many words is it right? Child write in 5 minutes. Divided by 5. That will give you the rate of what child can use to write. Okay, even there's error, you add it together and you divide it by that 5 minutes. You can also use the percentage of correct word to assess content production. Okay, so it's not enough to just write and say, oh, he wrote so well. How many words did the child write correctly? If you are checking for that, if you're assessing that, how many words? Oh, it's such a beautiful, but that means there's a foundational skill missing, and you need to address that foundational skill. And then for you to consider the word must be spelled correctly, it must be capitalized if there's appropriate grammar and all of that. I think I've explained that. Teacher may also use multiple choice. Yes, you can use multiple choice to fill in the test to assess comprehension. Okay, you can say, you read the story and then you put multiple choice, which of this is correct to check for the comprehension of grammatical convention or rules of the writing. Therefore, advanced skill comprehension and application of advanced grammar and methods can be tested readily with multiple choice question or filling the gaps. The quality of idea, the sequence of idea, comprehension, cohesion of ideas, concentration of the reading audience should also be assessed for advanced written comprehension. Now, I just want to walk you through this tool real quick. This is a teacher-made tool or screening tool for checking a child who has issue with syllable and phonemes. So here, direction for each time. And you know, you have to have it properly structured so the child is not confused. So I'm using this as an example now. I'm checking for segmentation task, syllable and phoneme. As a teacher, I want to see where this child is when it comes to syllable and phonemes. Direction is for each item, use eraser end of an unsharpened pencil. Now for syllable segmentation, this is what you say to the child. I'm going to say a word and I want you to tap one time for each part or syllable that I say. So hamburger, I want you to tap hamburger. That's 3. Okay. Now I've given instruction to the students. You demonstrate now. Now it's your turn. I'm talking to the student now. Tap and say each part with me for each item below. Say, tap and say. That's the strategy you're using, each syllable. So picnic. So the child will tap 2. Picnic. If the child does not tap 2, then I know that the child has issue with syllable segmentation. Octopus, 3 taps. Boat, 1 tap. Pepperoni, 4 taps. Spider, 2 taps. Alligator, 4 taps. Now, this is meant to be for you as a teacher to take the student's response, because the way this tool is being created, the answers are here. So if the student is saying it, he may just say the answer. But that way you can score whether the child, so look at the score here. The child scored 2 taps here, 3 taps here, 2 taps here, which means I still need to work on this. Instead of 4 taps, he gave me 3 taps here. Instead of, okay, for 2 taps here. So 2 taps were wrong. You know, after prompting, even after prompting and modeling, Ada clap 3 type chin drop still. So she couldn't. Okay. So next, I want to check for phoneme segmentation. You know, phoneme is each sound in a word, each sound in a word. Now, I'm going to say a word and then I'll tap and say each sound in the word with the word. So I want you to tap and say each sound with me. Then I'll demonstrate. So I could use the word maybe up. I say up. I say up. That's 2 sounds of phoneme. Phoneme is a sound of the letter. Now, I'm going to ask the student Now it's your turn. Tap and say each sound in the word with me. For each item below, tap and say each sound. Up, up. That's 2 sounds. Say, and AY is like it's a sound, you know, A, say, E. That's 2 taps. 3 taps. You can see consonant digraphs there. And then trick, and then smash, 4 taps. And then look at the score of the students. 2 taps, 2 taps. So 3 taps, 2 taps, 3 taps, 2 taps. And then that's where I'll focus my intervention on, okay? So for that, this is my grade for the students. Assuming I ran through everything, I'll say this student for segmentation words, 4 out of 6 words. That means I have a lot of work to do for word segmentation into syllables. Delete syllables, I have work to do here as a teacher. Segment word into phoneme, I have work to do here. Practically everything I have work to do, but I have more work to do in more than some. And then I decided to just show you, like I said, some of the Teachermade tests, some of informal tools that are commercialized, that we can buy. In those, well, we can still use it, but sometimes the context of what is being used may not fit into our, but really I use some of these ones even here in Nigeria. So we have the comprehension test for phonological processing, and the author is Wagner and all of that, the publisher, the year. You get this slides, okay? We have the DISABILITIES, dynamic indicator of basic early literacy skills. These are some of the tools that are used, which are informal tools, non-reference, and it can be purchased. These are some more. For math, we have the key maths and a whole lot of them, But you're going to get this slide and you can look at them online. And in conclusion, the primary purpose of assessment or screening, whatever it is to improve student learning. That's, if you've been listening to me, all I've been saying is beyond identification. How do you improve the student learning? And that's a quote by Anne David, who is a PhD, who is a doctor and a Canadian educator, author, consultant, and researcher. Thank you so much for listening. You can reach me on all my social media handles. Just simply type Lola Aneke. In case I'm not able to answer all of your questions today, I will still answer it. So reach out to me on any of this. And then these are my references for all that I've spoken about today. And I'll get back to that. Let's do questions real quick. Thank you very much. I'm open to questions and I'm happy to answer your questions.
Thank you very much. We cannot express our appreciation enough. I think, guys, the floor is opened. The floodgates are open for more questions. So yes, if you have any question, kindly raise your hand and then we'll unmute you to ask your question. You can equally also post your question in the comment section so we can attend to it as soon as possible.
Yes.
I think a lot of people are actually requesting for your presentation slides and also.
I already sent it over, so I'm sure they'll have it shared. I sent it before I started my presentation.
Yes, we would actually share them in our Telegram channel, and also on the recording would be shared on YouTube for people that could not start or couldn't follow through. So
I see all your thank you too. Appreciate the appreciation too. Thank you. I'm looking at the comment sections. I'm reading up so I don't miss any. Hannah raised her hand. Akosia, Hannah.
Okay, Akosia, you can go ahead and ask your question. You're unmuted. Akosia, unmute yourself and then ask your question. Hello, Hannah.
Okay, there's a question while we're waiting for her that says, can this Sorry, oh, did I miss it? Can somebody help me also?
Yes, the question is, please, can these apply in teaching other exceptional individuals? That's a question from Emmanuel Latte Mingo.
Absolutely, absolutely. However, your expectation from that individual depends on what the person can do. Remember, now talking about what the maths curriculum and expectation should be for individuals with exceptionality. You have to know what they can do. Do you understand? The strategies are easy. I mean, if I ask a child to say, I'm using this to show what is this, what is that, it's easy for that child to be able to use it. Do you get that? Supposed to speak over the child's head. So it's always good to have maths. You have something they can touch. And remember, when you say exceptional learners, who are they? Are they kinesthetic learners? Are they visual learners? Are they auditory learners? Are they tactile learners? So it depends on what that individual, what the challenge with that individual is. Will now determine how you will use all that I've spoken about today to teach that individual. Have I been able to answer your question? Or do you want to be more specific? Is there a particular, what's the particular challenge of that individual? Is there a particular diagnosis so I can know how to answer your question? Or is it hyperactivity and Down syndrome? Is that the same person?
Yes, it's the same person.
Now, hyperactivity. When you look at me now, you say I'm hyperactive because I don't know how to stay. I told you already when I started, I am a kinesthetic learner. So that individual that is hyper, make the person move around as you are teaching it. If I wanted a kinesthetic person to identify, to tell me this letter, I will put it on the floor. Go get me letter B. Go get me letter C. The person has moved. I'm foiling his hyperactiveness. But if I make him sit down and say, give me letter, he's going to be wanting to move. Is it making sense? Now, Down syndrome individual, what it is that it has to do with IQ of the individual. Some of them have, and the IQ vary. Some of them are low, average, and all that. So not every person with Down syndrome have low IQ. I've seen an individual with Down syndrome who became a lawyer? Yeah, a lawyer. I saw it. Because the level of IQ for that person, level of severity was not much, and the IQ was a bit high. So it depends on what the challenge of that person is. If it needs repetition, then repeat, so that individual gets that, the strategy. So for example, if I teach an individual Down syndrome this letter, I have to say this over and over, take data, over, keep recapping. I read a social media post of a parent. She has a child with autism, and she said, look, you have no business judging any child with autism. That's from our perspective. She has a child. Judging that child, saying that child cannot do anything if you not taught that child over 100 times, over and over again. Did you hear that? You have no business saying this child cannot identify letter F if you have not taught up to 100 times. And when you taught it 100 times and the child does not, then you can say, oh, maybe. But have you done it 100 times? Have I answered your question, Emmanuel? So it can be used, but you have to understand the individual and then use the strength, whatever it is, to get them to do what you want them to do. Any other question?
Question. Lola wants a lot of questions. So
Jerome. Oh, would you moderate? I mean, could you just moderate?
Jerome, let me see. Jerome. Okay. Please unmute yourself and then ask your question, please. Jerome.
Yes.
Right. You can ask your question now.
So, thank you very much for your long presentation. I tell you congratulations, but I have one question, but I don't know if you can give me permission to speak in French.
Can anybody understand French and decode for me and interpret, please?
Yes, I ask you, but you have an interpreter here.
Anybody? Can anybody interpret? Please.
No matter. Let's go on in English. So.
Or do you want to type? Okay, go ahead. Go ahead. I'll try to listen. Go ahead.
Yes. During your presentation, you are talking about sociometric method. So if I go on right, I see that sociometric method is not commonly used in explaining your summary in order to understand more. Thank you very much.
Yes, so I could
even
send a link to that if you want it, to the sociometric and technique. And if you read up on it, you realize that mostly psychologists are the ones that use it to check behavior and how students interact with one another. Individuals interact with one another. Yeah, so I would send that. I would send it to one of the, I don't know if I can, I can't do that, but let me see if I can do that. But I'll do it in the course, and if I don't, just, they'll reach out to me and I'll send it a link to that to be able to read up. And it's not a popular technique really for assessing individuals, but because we know that we are humans and it could affect self-esteem, it's also a way to check. It could be, like I said, when I showed you the diagram, that child might be isolated because he might not see anyone who understands him, or it might be different factors, you know, and that's why I showed you the potential for one person to be a leader and the other one be isolated. That could also affect the performance of a student. But I'll send you the article on that, the research on that. Is that okay?
Yes, another question. So about mathematics. So if suppose that in the class you have some students who don't know how to count. Yes. 1, 2, 3, 5 yes. in English and so on. So according to the subject that you are talking about, dyslexia. So tell me in your own words, in your own idea, how to collect those kind of students in order to know very well, in order to protect from.
Okay, my first question to you based on your question is,
thank you.
Are these students unable to identify numbers because of language barrier, or just because they can't identify it? Is it because of language barrier?
Yes.
Language barrier. You see, and it's a very amazing question. You see, in French, you speak French.
Yes.
If I speak French,
yes,
and tableau is what?
Can I use French?
No, I'm going to explain something to you based on your question.
Thank you very much. Let's continue in English. I told you during in mathematics.
Yeah, I got your question. I'm just trying to explain something to you. That's why I asked you. I said, is it based on language barrier or based on the individual just cannot recognize numbers? I said based on language barrier. Now, if that is the case, that person is not dyslexic. Okay.
Thank you.
But if, for example, I was saying tableau, I don't know if I said it well. What's the meaning of that in French? What's the meaning in English? What does tableau? Anybody? I know I did a little French in primary school. I know I'm saying something. I know I'm saying something in French. Tableau. What's that?
Yes, I tried between French and English.
Yeah, I'm asking
French and English.
What does, is it table? Somebody said it's table, or whatever it is. What I'm trying to say is that if, for example, I speak French,
yes,
and I know un, deux, trois, quatre.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
I am not, I know numbers. But if I don't know un, deux, trois, quatre, then I am dyslexic in French.
Yes.
Do you understand?
Yes, I'm
now,
catchable.
If it's not a language barrier, I mean, but if it's a language barrier, I don't know if I've answered your question, but you have to understand what exactly is going. Is it a language barrier issue, or the person does not cannot identify numbers? And if it's that the person cannot identify numbers, there are several ways you can teach the person. We can use the multisensory approach of having the person to fill the numbers using sand tray, using sandpaper, having the person use spaghetti to form the numbers, tracing. There's several ways the person can learn the numbers. They feel it, they hear it, they write on the back of the person. It's called the multi-sensory approach for teaching.
Thank you, my president.
I answered your question.
Yes, thank you very much.
Welcome. You can use technology, text to speech, you can use anything to teach it. Somebody was actually writing that, I saw it, that's something about teaching assistant. Sorry. Somebody said, do you know of any special app, software, and website that may assist assistants, that may assist teaching of exceptional individuals? Oh, absolutely, quite a number. And guess what? As easy as typing websites. For example, there are different websites for teaching individuals with dyslexia. You know, there are different websites, and if you Google, I don't have any off the top of my head right now, but if I go on Google and type, what did you ask, teaching exceptional learners? So if I type it on Google, several things will come out, and I'll be able to identify which one, because even see some websites, and then you just learn from there. So there are several, and I like to, like, all I've done today is just for you to own whatever I've taught you, so you can discover yourself. I don't know how to spoon feed adults, so if you Google, you'll find. But if you cannot find, please, organizers, reach out to me and I'll send you some links.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Somebody actually said, I didn't talk about hearing test, sorry. Let me find that also. Okay, somebody said that was a great, the only thing was you did not add hear or eye test to check there. It's no problem before. Okay, I was asked to do Teachermade test. Well, thank you for that. Okay, I was asked to do informal test and in the educational space. So these are, well, it's important to go to the clinical and have them test, but that's a norm. Any child coming to school must have their hearing test done and eye test done. So please always insist that that is ruled out first. It's ruled out first. At my school, you must come with your hearing test and your eye test before we could proceed. There was a student that was brought to me just 2 days ago, coincidentally. And they're like, oh, he can see, but he's just wearing the glasses, but he can't see. If I said, I need you to give me a doctor's report of how far he can see, so I don't assume. And the same thing for the hearing. So it's very important, but based on what I was asked to speak about, I didn't want to delve into that. I wanted to do more of the educational part. So I apologize if that is offended anyone. Yeah, Joy, I apologize. I see your name. Any other question?
Lady Rosa, do you have a question for us?
Oh, I'm very good. I'm also learning, so I'm very good. Like, it's quite interesting, the angles Miss Lola kind of pulled off, and I hope and believe that our teachers here have gotten something out of it. And you can rewatch the video when we post it on YouTube, and we'll also share her slides with you, so you can go along with it when you are rewatching, so you can get more into it. Like she started and said, 2 hours for this type of topic, it doesn't do justice, because this is like a whole week long topic, but we're trying to squeeze almost everything into 2 hours for you. So that's why anytime we call for training, you have to continue to come so you can benefit it. Thank you, Miss Lola.
Pleasure.
That being said, I'm pretty sure that you are going to bless us with your presence a lot of the times whenever we call on you. I think that we have
I'm coming physically for the next one.
Oh, it's very important. Very, very, very important.
The next
Rosa, did you hear that?
The next one is going to be an in-person one where we will bring her to Ghana. She's been there many times. Yeah, she and Blessing will come together.
Yes, that's very wonderful. We look forward to seeing you guys. Lady Rosa and myself will be waiting for you at the airport too. Anna.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think we have a question in the comment section. It says that, what time in a day is more suitable to teach exceptional individuals, and which subject areas are for morning or afternoon?
It depends on the individual. You have to observe the individual when they are more receptive. It depends on, so that's why for my exceptional learners, I don't have a general schedule. We have individual schedule based on when the child learns more, when the child is not cranky, what subject they enjoy more. So for example, if a child enjoys literacy more, we put it more literacy, and then we have a little of numeracy, and then we have a little of literacy. So that individual will tell you, you see, what about us that work with children with individual special needs, that we sometimes want to impose ourselves on them. We don't listen to them to tell us what to tell us who they are. We don't let them teach us. The moment you begin to do that, you see that everything will flow easier or easily. So observe that learner, see where, and that's part of observation. When does he, oh, I see he's more calm in the morning. Oh no, after lunch, it's more calm. Oh, it's after recess. I think you like this better. Then you use that to create a schedule for the learner. Have I answered your question? And that's why it's called individualized. Individualized learning, individualized education program is about that person and nobody else. That's one person. So it's a good thing we talk about observation and all those things we did. Try and use it to develop and see when it's best to teach that learner.
Are there any more questions? Okay, so if it's not, Ray, are you there?
Yes, Lady Rose, I'm here.
Okay, take over and let's proceed with the rest.
Okay, so it's been a very wonderful session. I'm pretty sure that if we had more time, Lola could actually speak till tomorrow morning. I like the energy and the passion you have for the work you do. And I believe that when we have this in-person training, it'll be a fantastic one.
I look forward to that. A lot of hands-on and practical sessions. I really look forward to it.
We look forward to having you, don't worry. So don't look forward too much because the forward is us. Okay.
Yeah, but that training won't be free though. So they have to take advantage of this one since it's
I know,
free.
right? I know.
Yeah.
We need to pay for her flight and we need to pay for her to probably sleep in possibly a 6-star hotel.
Wow.
If there is one in Ghana by then.
I feel like a Nigerian delegate, a dignitary, you know, representing the president of Nigeria in Ghana.
Don't worry. So, okay, so as is the custom, we're going to take a couple of group pictures. So I would urge everyone to turn on their cameras so we can take the group picture right away. So turn on your cameras. Turn on your cameras.
See beautiful faces. I see my sister, Dr. Marvel over there. Hello. Yes, she has an upcoming training, which is a paid training. So you guys that want more training, get yourself ready. When it's out, you're going to help her advertise it. And it's also on the same things we are teaching here, but in-depth ones. So get yourself ready. Now let's have our cute faces on. So I put on, if you don't put on your camera, when I post the pictures, don't come and tell me you didn't take a picture of me. Please, I have a lot of people who come and tell me that. And I'm like, where were you? Okay.
Rosa, you are taking the pictures, right?
Yes, so I'm taking now. So I'm starting.
Okay.
Okay. I see the second page people, not all of them want pictures. So I'll take just those who have their cameras on and their names. All right, awesome. I'm done, and thank you very much for that.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. It's been a great session. We look forward to having you on tomorrow. Lola, we actually look forward to seeing you on tomorrow as well. So you can also chip in as and when we need your expertise. So from
Miss
me,
Lola is a very busy person.
Yes, this is called emotional blackmail.
I know what you are doing, and you'll be setting trap for me right from the beginning of this training. I'm dodging it.
Yeah. But Miss
Yes,
Lola,
so from me, Reynolds, and the rest of us at African Dyslexia Organization, we say thank you and have a lovely evening. Good night, everybody.
Night.
Morning.
Thank
Goodbye.
you.